Hello, it's good to have you join us again for your favorite show here on NTA2 Lagos Network Center. This is Close Flow, and we are so delighted knowing that you are with us again to unravel who our distinguished guests will be on this show for today. And happily, we know that because we are all Nigerians and we are key stakeholders on how the narrative about our country is being shared with the rest of the world, we know that you also are now waiting patiently to see what we need to deal with in this edition of the program. Currently, we have such a trending story to, well, as it were, overview and then see how we navigate what the positives and the negatives of that story is. We are saying right now in Nigeria, youth unemployment is at about 32.5%, and the country is in the middle of one of the worst economic crises in 27 years. Now, some people are saying to us that some of these issues actually constitute the sense of threat and national insecurity all across the country, because we now have such incidences as the Boko Haram, the herders and farmers clashes, the banditry and kidnapping, separatist violence, oil bunkering, and all that and all that. Now, Nigerians are asking the questions. Why are we at this time when the rest of the world actually would seem to have found answers to internal national threats that we can't seem to get over ours? Why are we still asking questions? Why are we still not being able to actually sit down with ourselves and then decide and determine how best to tackle these issues? Well, we have with us a Nigerian who, yes, schooled abroad, also worked abroad, but is back home and transiting between Nigeria and going abroad and seeing how modern technology can be employed, can be deployed, and can be developed to answer some of these key critical questions on our national security. Yes, we will talk to him, but one thing I would also like to ask him will be this. Even in developing nations, people are already looking at the biases which are already incorporated in the algorithms being used to develop artificial intelligence and, of course, modern technology. Some of these biases actually came up during the test for facial recognition, and some university scholars are of the opinion that the biases are not too different from racial biases, from social classification, and other sorts of discrimination that people actually have always grown up with. Well, modern science also is saying to us that we can now work hybrid. That is, we can work both remotely. We can also work right here, live in the studio where I am with all of you. Now, the question is, how comfortable is that as we merge into the new future of metaverse, Web3, and of course, artificial reality? Would all these things not actually dismantle what we now know as social interaction? Will it not actually upset the way we relate with each other as humans? These are some of the questions we're going to be finding out from our guest, who incidentally, right now is talking about saying Lagos is far away in Abuja, but is already primed to actually open up on this conversation and attend to all of you. So stay with us to get to meet who this distinguished Nigerian is.
Hey, beautiful. Your eyes, your smile are all begging me to take you home tonight.
Now reading page 3.
Experience unlimited super-fast internet access from Entel 4G.
Entel. Live more.
Experience unlimited superfast internet access from Intel 4G.
Intel. Live more.
Thank you for staying with us. So we have with us Nnamdi, a double graduate, who is actually joining us. Hello, Nnamdi, are you there with us?
I'm here.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure to be on your program.
Thank you very much, Nnamdi. Thank you so very much. Let's quickly let's start on a very fast note, because I know that the rest of Nigeria, both home and abroad, are actually waiting to join this conversation with you. Now, from your own experience, having worked with the top Fortune 500 companies in technology area and also in your major field, my first question would be this: why or how can we use you as a model, for instance, to use your visionary and innovative ability or capacity as an app developer, so that we can raise the torrent of techie knowledge amongst Nigeria's Gen Z? How can we use you as a role model and put you on the street to get Nigerians who are as young as you are to say to themselves, I can make a change?
Thank you for that question. You know, Nigeria has produced a lot of great minds in diaspora. And as I know, there are many talented Nigerians, both within the country and outside the country. As an app developer and the founder and CEO of Lifeshare mobile app, I believe that technology is an ultimate equalizer. There are things that technology can do that will help not only the youth, but the country in general. Specifically when it comes to security, there are a whole lot of things that can be done to help, make Nigeria a safer place from a digital and security point of view. So as a young Nigerian, I believe that there are things that we can offer, solutions, which I know we are going to discuss in this program, that can help not only the country, like I said, but also young Nigerians. But we'll get into the details of that.
Great, that's brilliant. I like that optimism and the fact that you have said to us that, yes, Nigeria has already proven themselves in the diaspora and even here back home. Now, another area that I want us to quickly look at in terms of the national security, for us to look at the threats. Let's try to identify the threat and then the destabilizing matters which these threats represent. The list, we include the Boko Haram, herders and farmers, banditry and kidnapping, separatists, then oil bunkering. These 5 elements are the critical aspect which many Nigerians are so worried about, that why can't we by now, after all these years, overcome these 5 critical threats?
So this question seems to be reoccurring decimal. I know the security services are doing their best to try to combat these reoccurring issues. I know they have made some progress, but there still remains, some issues and pain with these recurring issues. And that's where technology comes into place. Like I said, I believe that technology is an equalizer in the battle against, these issues that Nigeria, has been facing as a country. And by laying certain infrastructure and putting certain technology in place, I personally believe that the issue of security should be democratized across this country. And what do I mean by that? I mean that the average Nigerian should be able to have the ability to report, detect, and help solve these issues. We can create a platform, centralized, platform whereby an average Nigerian can report these things in real time to authorities to reduce the time it takes for authorities to respond to these security issues. Through some of the platforms that we are developing at this point. But like I said, we can go a little bit deeper into this conversation. But I ultimately believe that making technology such as the platform we're talking about to democratize it, that way the average Nigerian will feel empowered that they can contribute to end the problem of insecurity in this country.
Again, I like that, Nnamdi, but the figures seem to be a little bit contradictory. Right now, we have over 600 million mobile phone users spread all over Africa. That's about one of the highest in the world. Yet, you cannot deny the fact that for us, at this time in the evolution of technology, the digital space that Africa occupies is still very primary, it's still very basic. So, what do you think is responsible for the slacks? Are you saying that we have not massed ourselves together, or we do not have the kind of support that government should actually lead the way for these techies, as you're saying, to be part of to democratize how they participate in making sure that we can solve these problems? Is that what you're saying?
So what I'm saying, that's partly what I'm saying. However, you are right. The penetration of mobile technology in Africa has dramatically increased. But one thing is missing. There are two sides to this coin. The side that is missing is for government to have a centralized place where people can report these incidents. I will give you an example. Other than Lagos, I don't think if you ask the average Nigerian, when you have a problem or kidnapping or insecurity, where do you call, or who do you call, or the number, how do you contact authorities? Different people might not even know what to do or the number to call. Some places you have to look up the police station number. Some places you will have to go to a website to report those type of issues. With a mobile phone, yes, I agree. A lot of Africans and Nigeria in particular do have access to mobile phone, but we have not come to a place whereby we have a centralized place where individuals in that democratized form that I'm talking about are able to centrally report to authorities in real time, and then the authorities will be able to act with the same manner. So I think that's the piece that is missing. A centralized system whereby people, abroad, you call 911, or, they are working on, text messaging as a way to report, security incidents or emergencies. So I think that's the piece that is missing. Yes, a lot of Nigerians are digital informed right now, but we don't have that, centralized infrastructure to help authorities, react to some of these incidents.
Okay, right. That again is that is a good indicator of what we need to do and correct. Now, so we are not looking at data sciences, data management. We're looking at cloud technology and all that. But some people are already saying that maybe we should not be looking at that anymore, because even in the advanced countries, we're looking at edge computing, in which case you can manage the information better or best if it's closer to you than if you go as as it were, go and save it somewhere that is too far distant, and then you don't have a network to reach the information. So how do we combat this now? Nnamdi, you are still within the same structure, yes. If you have the storage capacity, maybe you want to cloud it. Now, how would the response elements get the information and then act on it fast enough to correct the threats?
So this is where the cutting edge technologies such as machine learning and artificial intelligence comes into place. The security, authorities and the military, if they have the type of, centralized system that we are proposing, positioned in different geographic locations in the country, whereby they can access these individually reported incidents to the authorities in real time, using machine learning, artificial intelligence, they can sift through not only information that the citizens are providing, but other tangential information that come in different data points. The authorities will be able to gather all this information, and then we'll be able to provide better security for the citizens. There are a whole host of options available for authorities to choose from. The artificial intelligence is just an example of that that I'm talking about. So that's something that we can go into detail and talk about. But definitely in this day and age, there should be more advantage that we have in using technology to solve some of these problems.
Okay, thank you again. Well, I must doff my my cap to you for bringing that up, because we know that currently in some developed countries, drones and robotics are being deployed as security tools and crime-fighting gadgetry. But some people are of the opinion that such development may be a very high risk, because the robots or the drones that you're using, can't they also be, as it were, manipulated or diverted or interfered with in a way that will now further threaten what the populace you're trying to save? How do you react to that development?
Sure, there is always this fear about automation with artificial intelligence. Yes, artificial intelligence can pose a threat, but remember that artificial intelligence starts fundamentally with the computer being able to digest and lots of data from different ends, and then process that and produce an action, if you will. So, I mean, while there is concerns with artificial intelligence, at least as it stands right now, the benefit outweighs the risk. And Nigeria cannot wait until artificial intelligence is an issue before we can utilize such helpful technology in helping us solve some of the problems that we are facing. So while your point is very valid, that artificial intelligence maybe in the future might pose some threats, the solutions and the solution that artificial intelligence provides right now can actually help Nigeria in solving some of these problems, i.e. providing different data points that will provide authorities preemptive intelligence, being able to react even before some of these security incidents occur. Because machine learning and artificial intelligence, they're able to make predictions, high statistical analysis, saying, okay, there is a 90% chance that there's going to be a kidnapping on this road at this time, given not only the history, but given other incidents. Maybe there is political rally, there is this and that, there are rich people traveling along the road. So it's able to take these various data points and then make a statistical analysis and say, okay, authorities, you might want to deploy security services to this area, and that way they can maybe prevent it from even happening before the incident happens.
All right, again, brilliant, Nnamdi, brilliant. I'm enjoying this conversation with you. I'm just hoping that we can employ you further to be sure that Nigeria actually can now deal with some of these issues. Now, one thing that again has occurred, or that that some people are raising, will be what you have just said. Military forces, intelligence services, operators and all that, and even regular policing, that we can use some of these technology assist in what they are doing. Now, the flip side of the coin is that some people are already saying that the algorithms being used to write this, to, as it were, code the robots, the artificial intelligence, and all that, the machines that you're going to use, are also carrying the biases buried in our human relationships, biases like racism, biases like gender, biases like social classification. Now, would you be bothered about that? Would that be a threat to the future evolution of this techie?
Sure. So the point you raised about artificial intelligence biases, it's a valid one. In countries such as the United States, where you have a diversity of people of different ethnic groups, I will give you an example: facial recognition. Sometimes facial recognition, will put certain category of, race, they are attributed to, maybe, for example, crime is attributed to certain, race, and then that becomes a bias, However, like I said, machine learning and artificial intelligence, it actually takes data that is fed into it. So the good news is, like, some of these biases could be corrected because artificial intelligence is able to learn from, as it gathers more data, it's able to be corrected. Now, coming to Nigeria, with respect to security, now, some of the decisions that the artificial intelligence will be making, it will not be necessarily, being biased against people. It will be purely based on incidents of security, like maybe there is a location or an event that's about to happen. It's able to make that prediction without necessarily having any biases. So application of artificial intelligence in different, human realms is important, but I do believe that when it comes to security in Nigeria, such biases will be minimized because Nigeria is not as diverse as some of these countries where, you have some of these biases against certain race or certain type of people. Now, I don't want to undermine the possibility of that, being abused. Nigeria is made up of different ethnic groups.
Exactly.
It's possible that certain ethnic groups could be, victimized, using this artificial intelligence. But purely when it comes to a security point of view, I truly believe that it can be an effective tool in targeting some of these issues and then helping us solve some of these problems. Now, those biases can always be corrected by the inputs that the machine learns and the computer as well.
All right, okay, thank you again. Now let's look at data management, because again, that is very critical. You have already said to us that now the information we have gathered will of course now will be put into the data file, which will be accessible across many platforms. Now, how do we now deal with the storage? How do we keep this information in a manner and in a way that of course will not be abused, will not be stolen, will not be threatened, will not be manipulated by any other party, as it were? How do we get that done? Do you think we have the natural capacity within Nigeria to do that, or do we still need to depend on external help to help us to overcome that that area?
This is an excellent question, and Nigeria has the capability to do that. I work with a team of experts and engineers in the United States. Now, being that this is national security, when it comes to security of Nigerians, we can actually decide to host the data that does the security with the artificial intelligence here in Nigeria, and then thrust that into the military. We can always have backup. I'm talking about servers now, where the data will be hosted. The reporting of incidents, the gathering of intelligence, all that could be hosted, in Nigeria with maybe a backup with offshore, resources outside the country. That way, there are no abuses. If we only have, the data, say, in Nigeria, then it might be susceptible to people manipulating it or doing something evil. But when you have what you call a mirror site, whereby the data is mirrored in other places, even if the data that is in Nigeria is corrupted, you can always look to the data that is offshore and say, okay, well, here is another copy of the same data that we have in Nigeria. But I do trust that the military, if the team I work with, if we were to produce this type of security digital trend to handle this information to be able to help end security incidents in Nigeria.
All right, okay. One area again that we need to move on to very quickly. will be about digital education, digital technology, how we can retrain our. Now, so how do you want us to go about it? How can we plan? Because right now, educationally, we don't seem to have it right yet. Nnamdi, from your own experience, from your perspective. So how best do we need to re-engineer, to rejig our academic system to now recognize that digital technology or digital revolution is here, and we have to now find a way to take part?
Sure. I think Nigeria has made giant strides when it comes to digital education. When I left the country in 2003, Nigeria was still, not to par where it needs to be. But I know, a lot of schools, namely private schools, individuals and students do have, laptops and devices and stuff like that. But there is more that the federal government could do, namely making digital literacy a top priority, because that's where the future is. So being able to make sure that every student, every pupil has access to digital technology. Now we can, in the United States, you have libraries, free libraries where people can go and use the computer among other things. But we can create digital hubs or use existing facilities such as universities, whereby any child, any individual will be able to go and use computer free of charge and learn coding and stuff like that. So it is really, really important that Nigeria digital literacy is accelerated with the help of the Nigerian government and the private sector as well. Lifeshare mobile app, and as well as the team I work with, we can maybe help to facilitate such things through consultancy, as well as providing professional advice how this can be done. But I do agree with you that digital literacy is very key, and to accomplish that, we can use existing infrastructure such as universities, schools, and different hubs where people can go and learn about digital literacy, such as the cutting edge forms of digital technology like machine learning, artificial intelligence, and a whole host of other ones.
Okay, great. Thank you again, and thank you for your optimism about how we are evolving in the digital age. Now, one figure I would like to share with you, just to situate properly the threats to national security, the displacement tracking matrix (DTM) of the United Nations High Commission for Refugees now report that we have 2.9 million internally displaced persons. 2.9 million internally displaced persons. These are refugees suffering from the influx of Boko Haram and the jihadists, the northern part of Nigeria. Now, according to UNICEF, 60% of the IDPs are children and girls. 60% are children and girls. So how can we deflate this catastrophic time bomb being fueled by these victims of the insecurity across Nigeria?
So that is a very sad number indeed to hear that. Like I said, while the military continues to make progress when it comes to security in this country, continue to fight, these elements in the society, I think when it comes to displacement, education is the ultimate empowerment, especially for now. Such technology, such as Starlink, system that can provide internet in very remote areas and can also help to fight these insurgents, they should be deployed. If you follow the news, you know that the Starlink has been activated for Nigeria. So we can deploy this type of technologies and make sure that these children, regardless of how remote they are able to access the digital platforms that people all over the country and even abroad are able to access, and then be able to provide them with certain digital solutions that they otherwise would not be able to access. So while this is a very sad thing, I'm optimistic that with the right political will, there are solutions to be had to help these poor people that have been displaced from their homes.
All right, okay, well, as we transit to a new political dispensation shortly, we are going to be asking you, or we're going to be borrowing your brains on how we are going to make sure that we can make some of these security issues part of the agenda of the incoming government. But for now, let's take a break. When we come back, the conversation will be thrown open to all Nigerians to now query you, Nnamdi, to now ask you how exactly you want to navigate the difficulties we face as a nation. Stay with us. We shall be back.
We must dilate the eyes. We look for if they have cataract, look at the back of their eyes. They have glaucoma. We do a full workup for them.
You will remember
our government should actually open their eyes, especially southwest of the state.
We're going to be looking deeper than we ever looked in before to ensure that we close all the loopholes.
It manifests as physical suffering.
Every edition is an arresting conversation with distinguished Nigerians from various strata of the society, bearing their minds on how we can realize the Nigeria of our dreams. Join us live on Close Flow, Monday, every week here on NTA2 Lagos Network Center. Close Flow. The conversation is about you.
All right, thank you for staying with us. We still have Nnamdi here with us in the studio. Let me quickly give out the numbers. Nnamdi, 1 second. Let me give out the numbers to Nigerians, particularly your friends, so they can also call us. If you want to hear Nnamdi's sweet voice, sonorous voice, please call us on 080-5975-3044, 080-5975-3044, so you can hear Nnamdi directly. If you can call that line anywhere you are in the world, just put the Nigerian code and let us hear your voice. If you're not getting through with your call, then SMS us on 080-6350-8434. 080-6350-8434. Just send us an SMS of what your question or what your contribution is, and then we'll read out your message to Nnamdi. Otherwise, WhatsApp us. Just WhatsApp us, just in case you're not getting through on either a call or an SMS. WhatsApp us on 080-2038-4130. 080-2038-4130. Let's have your own contribution, because this conversation is truly about you as a Nigerian and how you can live and prosper in this country. Now, Nnamdi, quickly, while we are still waiting for our viewers to join us with their call, today, like I said during the intro, we speak about hybrid work. Hybrid, that is, we are working remotely from home, or we are working right in the studio as I am with all Nigerians right now. But the question is, in a country like ours, where infrastructures are so terribly deficit, how do you think we are going to be able to participate in that future, this new future we are dealing with? We don't have electricity, we don't have a steady telecommunication service, so how can we be sure that we can actually compete, that we can occupy a critical space in that global, this global new future, where people are working either remotely and live, in a hybrid format? How do we do it?
So, very good question. I believe that this will be an effort that will involve both the private sector as well as the government. The one good thing about technology is the rate of acceleration is really phenomenal. I will take you back to when, we had nothing but NITEL, the telephone line. A lot of people, these are multinational companies, thought that, for Nigerians to have, telephone line, in their homes is going to take X amount of years. But then cell phone came along, and we had to bypass a whole technology, which is the telephone landline. I mean, it's still valuable. It's still a backbone of the infrastructure. But the point I'm making is, the way technology accelerates, there could be solutions that could be had in the very near future that will help improve all the issues that you just listed. Example, the issue of network. I know that the different telecommunication companies such as MTN, they are rolling out their 5G network as we speak right now, and such improvements, they will massively increase the capacity of Nigerians to be able to function digitally. With the support of government as well as private sectors such as startup companies, they can deploy infrastructure that will help Nigerians to meet up with the new digital age, if you will. I'm not denying the fact that there are areas and then things that need to be done, because just like in certain parts of the world, digital literacy is not equal. Even in the United States of America, there are some remote areas where you will be, and getting signal could be a challenge. So as we continue to make that progress, I think that technology, as it develops and accelerates, will be able to provide and help Nigeria to keep accelerating. It's always marvels me on the progress that we've made as a country. We are not where we need to be, but I do believe that we are on the right track to keep accelerating. But the government and the private sector, they have a huge role to play in making sure that we keep accelerating in the right direction.
Okay, thank you, Nnamdi. But the acceleration seems to again also be on a different trajectory. Another disturbing factor is that people believe that criminal groups in Nigeria are now as armed as the security agencies themselves. So the casualties, coming out of any attack or any security infiltration are very high. You have so many police officers being killed. You have so many security agents being killed. You have so many police officers being destroyed. The list just continues to escalate because like you said, the criminals also are also already accelerating the power or the manner of their insurgency. So how do we deal with this, Nnamdi? What do we need to do to correct this very quickly?
I think that this is a purview of whereby the security services might have weapons that are not even comparable to what the security services might have in their asset, if you will. So I think that the security services, while they are doing a good job, they need to be provided modern day security equipment that the gears. Now I'm talking about the gears, not necessarily digital arming. So you have things that are very advanced, night vision, that they can see these people without them being seen, deploying of satellites. So there are a whole host of things that could be done that will help protect the security services and the police who are keeping us safe. Now it goes back to what I'm saying. Deploying artificial intelligence as part of a major security infrastructure of what Nigeria is doing, it will help with the predictive part of some of these incidents. For example, what we are proposing is a platform whereby the average Nigerian can very efficiently report to authorities, security incidents. And the authorities can be deployed immediately to that area, even before the kidnappers or the bandits have time to get away. They'll be able to, get to that area with very good intelligence with what is going on in real time. So these type of things, if we have the political will to be able to deploy these things and equip our military with the right equipment, couple that with artificial intelligence and then other forms of digital support, I think that will start to make good progress in trying to defeat some of these bad elements in our society.
Thank you again very much for pointing that out. Again, you are giving us the direction we should take. Now, the issue will be for you as a visionary web developer and, of course, a focused achiever. What do you think Nigerian youth should do to make sure that the next generation of leaders will also buy into this framework that you have so defined? Would they be able to see what you are saying, that, okay, now for us to effectively manage the future, to effectively secure the country, to effectively be sure that our citizens can live, in a safe environment, then we need to do this. So what should the Nigerian youth do?
So the good news is that the Nigerian youth are already on the digital world already. So they are in some ways ahead of the government. We just have to meet them where they already are. They're living their lives on the mobile phone, on their computers and whatnot. The average youth in Nigeria is spending anywhere from 8 to 12 hours a day on their mobile phone. So I think we need to take advantage of that and bring, digital solutions for security, and that's basically what we are proposing, since the youth are already there. So why don't we build security around where the youth they are already, where it makes it easy. In human psychology, it's well known that when you make things that are already a habit, part of the solution, it's easier for that to be implemented. So for the youths who are already ahead in the digital realm, we need to build infrastructure and security that is around them, that is convenient. That way, they don't need to be coerced, they don't need to be forced, to be able to be part of the solution, rather than being part of the problem. I know the government as well as private sector, they have been pushing in different fronts to make sure that the youths are part of the solution when it comes to this. But, your point is well noted, and an excellent one as that the youths, they are a key part of, solving security issues, in Nigeria. And it goes without saying that providing employment for them goes a long way, which I know that the government continues to make inroads and make progress in that area. But we need to meet them where they are and build these digital solutions and security solutions around digital platforms.
All right, thank you again. But like I always like to speak on behalf of others who are yet to join us. Maybe I should run the numbers again. If you cannot get to hear Nnamdi's voice, please, I'm saying to you, just drop us your SMS or WhatsApp, and we can read out your messages to him so that he can then respond to your queries of what you think we need to do. SMS us on 08063508434, 08063508434, or 08020384130 with your WhatsApp messages, so that Nnamdi can be ready to respond to your queries. Nnamdi, another thing that again we would like to come back to will be the question of the Gen Z. Many people see Nigerian Gen Zs as just screen gazers and not readers. They don't like to read deep. They don't like to read wide. So digital education again may not be a primary focus. Rather, it's entertainment that they are looking at. And so we come back to what you have developed, the app that you have developed right now. Yes, it can compete with FB and some other social media handles, but is that the only thing that we should be looking at actually, or should that be our primary focus as a people?
So yes, the attention span of the average person, whether it's Gen Z or Gen X or millennials, it has reduced over time. Why? Because we are constantly being bombarded with information from different angles, from multinational corporations, as well as advertisers. So that's a problem that every country is facing, and not just something that is unique to the Nigerian millennial and Gen Z. But like I said, there are opportunities to be had in the new digital information age that we are in right now. And that is taking advantage of these millennials constantly being on their phone. They are already on their phones anyway. So why don't we build solutions, that are digital? That way they are already there, and provide solutions around there. Now, with the issue of attention span, when it comes to security, I don't care who you are, but something that concerns your security, it will always get your attention. So if people know that there is, an application or a way to keep themselves safe and their family, I think that will supersede whatever you're doing or your digital life, if you will. But your point is very valid that, the new generation, while they are constantly on their phone, their attention span is always very short. And there could be ways that, that could be minimized, if you will. But I still believe that when it comes to security, just as humans, it's the primary thing that's on our mind.
Okay, all right. Talking about humans, now the new future that we are looking at, Nnamdi, already you have mentioned part of it, machine learning, artificial intelligence, robotics, and all that. Some people are already speculating or imagining that by the time we have metaverse and Web3, using artificial reality and enhanced reality, we may totally disrupt all known human experiences, particularly our social interactions, the psychology of having to be one-on-one with each other, because right now you can actually stay isolated in your own room, and of course enhanced artificial reality will help you to stay or to occupy an estate, and you mix with the people. How does that get to you? Are you also, do you think there's any risk there, or are we just over speculating?
So that is a subject that both psychologists are studying, of the impact of virtual reality in general. The Facebook has the metaverse, which is a version of virtual reality. Now, Facebook is making the bet that the future will be virtual. The future will be virtual. But as you probably know, if you follow the economics and the reports on the metaverse, it hasn't been as successful as not only Mark Zuckerberg, what he predicted, but the Wall Street, they are pulling funds when it comes to virtual reality. Here's the thing: the human mind has a way of working. Now, we always have these theories of how we think certain products will be received by the general population. But the customer is the king. What the customers decide is ultimately what goes. Basically the marketplace is what decides through the individual decisions that people make. So while virtual reality has a lot of good applications, for example, in training, in entertainment, for example, you can use it to teach how to do surgery in medical settings, or use it to teach different ways that students can learn. Yes, there are very valid applications for virtual reality or metaverse, if you will, but human beings also don't like things constantly being in their face, and then it's not a free way to interact with the physical world that that we are used to. But there are applications of the virtual reality. So I think it remains to be seen where the virtual reality is headed. But I know about 2-3 years ago, there were a lot of bets that that's going to definitely be the future. But right now, I am not so sure, given the experience with Facebook.
All right, thank you again. That's very encouraging. So we are not yet in the new development. But one thing again that some people are looking at is that it's been speculated that the next industrial revolution is going to be interplanetary. Interplanetary adventures and all that. Now, don't you think that Africa is going to be left behind by the time everybody is traveling either to Mars or to space to go and mine gold and mine other discoveries? What's going to happen to Africa?
Very good question. I mean, I know that in psychology there is something called Maslow's, human needs. Humans basically, worry about their feeding, clothing,
housing,
shelter, security, and then you go up the, the pyramid of needs. Now, I know, the developed countries, United States, China, France, they are all making attempts to go mine minerals, in out of space. I believe that Africa, in time, we are going to catch up with that. As we accelerate and develop, I mean, Nigeria alone, our GDP has constantly been increasing. I believe with the right leadership, a time will come when the issue of space will become a top priority, because there are a lot to be benefited from space. But the point I'm making is the federal government in its budget has other pressing needs that it probably needs to focus on, such as, feeding people, making sure that the basic needs of Nigerians are met first before they start thinking about going to space. I'm not saying it's not important. I believe that, we should be putting resources into that. But the reality is there are more pressing needs, for the government to attend to the people rather than putting money in space. Now, if we do have, the resources, extra resources to do that, maybe the best way would be for African countries to put resources together. So it's not just, one country trying to do it alone. If there could be a consortium of, African countries putting their resources together to compete with those advanced nations, such as the US, the European countries, Asian countries such as China, as well as other developing countries, that might be the better way to go, with Nigeria taking the lead, if you will. But by all means, I think, the journey to space, it's not going to be stopped. Before the end of next decade, I believe people will be living out of space. And then countries will be going back and forth, not only to the moon, but to Mars and beyond, just to bring, resources back on Earth to process them. So that's, what I think and where I think that's going to go.
All right, great. Again, okay, let's look at what you have just opened up, the continental spread of what we can do as a nation. So would Lifeshare be part of what the African Free Trade Zone Act is all about, so that we can see how that particular development from your own end can also be a continent-wide matter? Is that possible? Are you looking at that future?
Sure. Lifeshare right now is a startup company that is focused on, it's a social media startup that lets you broadcast what you're doing on your phone. Obviously, companies evolve over time. We can provide, expert advice, to the government or to other institutions. But we'll be glad to play a role in the future that is very bright for Africa. There is always room for, companies such as mine, as well as other great companies across Nigeria, to provide, solutions and advice, and to play a role in leading the future. I do believe that Nigeria, through its startup, hub in Lagos and different parts of the country, is going to play an important role in the continental Africa as a whole. So I believe Lifeshare is going to play a role, in that future to make it happen. So we stand by to help as that future develops.
All right, thank you very much, Nnamdi Crescent Asogwa. Nnamdi Crescent, actually, we have navigated several crescents in our conversation with him. Sadly, I couldn't get my Nigerian friends and other viewers to join us from the diaspora to question and to query Nnamdi. I hope we can get him back here some other time, so that we can then do this conversation properly. Nnamdi, thank you so much for coming on Close Flow.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, so next one, we are going to be talking with Nnamdi. I hope it will be where we have taken Lifeshare to. Maybe we now go and launch it from Ghana or something, and then we'll now take it from there. So until we get to see you again on Close Flow, the conversation is never over with us. Just go to all our social media handles. Go watch what Nnamdi has said, what he has disclosed, and how all of you actually can use digital education to change the narrative about Nigeria and to overcome the growing insecurity across the country. Join us with a new edition coming up next week. Bye for now.